Alright, we carry on with your fix of entertainment on Y in the Morning. I go by the name of Barry Moses, or It's Barry Morning, every social media platform. And today happens to be Tuesday when we discuss the legal tender matters. But today we have people who are doing something special to the society through an organization that all of you know about. Before I introduce them, 22162 is the SMS line. Start with YM254. Never ever forget to leave your name and where you're watching us from, because that's the only way we can give you a shout out. Y254 channel is our handle on Twitter, Y254 TV on Instagram, and Y254 on Facebook. So in studio with me is the communications and PR person for the Scouts Association, and a lady who is the regional something. She'll take us to it. And we have Nelson and Grace in studio with us. Karibuni sana.
Asante.
Yes. So Nelson.
Yes.
Ladies first. All right. Brief bio of yourself. Your camera is number 4. Introduce yourself and tell us about yourself.
My name is Grace Wanja. I am a Nairobi County youth leader, where I mainly advocate on the youth issues and also form part of the policies, policy members who actually form the policies.
All right, policies are still being revised.
Yes.
I thought it was like a fixed.
No.
All right. Thank you very much. What about you? Your camera is number 3.
Nelson Opany is my name. I work as a communications and PR officer for the Scouts at the regional office for Africa here in Nairobi. Yes.
All right. So let's take it back to basics.
Yeah.
When was it founded?
Scouting is an organization, a movement that actually started way back in 1907. So that's over several 111 years now. And that was by a gentleman called Lord Baden-Powell back in England. Although the idea actually began in South Africa. The idea of scouting is actually rooted in Africa.
It's rooted in Africa.
Yes.
So it's ours with pride.
Yes, it's ours with pride. So we are very happy about that, and it's something we take pride for as a continent.
All right. Fast forward years later, when I was in primary school, there were scouts who used to dress like this. And especially when it comes to the boys, it was the same. But for girls, it was different. There was a brown attire, like this one, and then there was a purple one. I've always been curious, what's the difference? We used to call the purple ones Girl Guides or something, if I can remember. Yeah.
The Girl Guides are, their founder is the wife, Olive Powell. But the Scouts, the founder is Lord Baden-Powell. So that is just the difference.
Are they together?
Fundamentally, Scouts and Girl Guides share the same ideology. They're founded on the same principles. But Girl Guides is predominantly a ladies-only movement, while Scouting accepts both ladies and boys.
All right.
Yes.
As the communications person and the PR person, what are some of your roles?
My key role is helping as many people as possible to know the story of scouting, and working with the young people to help them to tell their own scout stories. Because one of the challenges we've been having is that scouting, though it has existed for over 100 years now, still we have challenges of people really not understanding what exactly the movement is about. So as a communicator, I work to really try as much as possible to get the story of scouting out there. Yes.
That's your role number 1.
That's
getting
my
the
role.
story of scouting out there.
Yeah, and not just what they do, but the impact of what they do, both on themselves and on the communities that they live in.
Is growing the movement part of your job as well?
Collectively, as all people who work for scouting, of course, we are focusing on growing the movement, and that growth is in two areas. One is increasing opportunities for more young people to become part of the movement and experience the learning opportunities that scouting provides. And secondly is on the impact that trickles down from the involvement of those young people in scouting back to their communities.
All right. I'd like to know some of the requirements for being a scout. And I'd like to pass it to the lady, because when she walked in, I asked if she's in high school or she just graduated from high school. So start with the age limits, and then you can narrow down to the rest.
I think we can start with the different age limits. We have a Sungura, who have their different ages.
What?
Sungura scouts. The ones who we were terming as primary or the lower primary. They normally, how to distinguish them is through a yellow scarf. Then we go to the upper primary, as you like to say it. They wear the green scarves. Then you go to high school. You now wear the maroon scarf. And now you come to the age bracket that I'm in right now, which is the rover section. You wear a scarf, the orange scarf, and your age between 18 to 26 years.
So you can never be too old to be a scout?
No, you can't. There's always something you can do. Once I'm done with my age bracket of 26, I'll then come back to the association as part of the adult resource, whereby I'll be part of either the training, the program, the policy makers. You will not lack a place.
All right. Apart from the positive impact that scouting has to the society, I love to be selfish a little bit. How do I benefit from being a scout as a person?
Okay, just before I answer your question, let me add on to something that Grace has mentioned. And you have an opportunity to become a scout at any stage in your life. Even you, at this moment, you can decide to become a scout.
Even if I never participated?
Yes, even if you've never been a scout in your life. And what that means is that at your age, you are basically coming in as a volunteer. Scouting is largely run by volunteers across the world. Currently, we have membership of over 50 million young people spread across the world.
Across the world?
Yes. And those 50 million young people are supported by slightly over 5 million volunteers. So these are the people who actually enable the young people to go through the scout program and learn through it. So we still welcome you to become a scout. And now that you're even in media, you can help us tell the stories of scouts.
You're a very good PR person, I can tell.
Back to your question. Scouting gives young people an opportunity basically to learn and use the skills that they learn to be of benefit to them and to their communities. And as a movement, we say that we are all about education, and this education is preparing the young people for life. So whatever activities, the camping you see the scouts going to,
that was their favorite part, especially.
Those, apart from them just being fun, inside we have a program that is clearly tailored towards helping them to develop skills like social skills, physical skills, emotional skills, and all that contribute towards developing the character of the individual. So the biggest thing that scouting provides to the young people is character development. And apart from that, scouting also provides you an opportunity to do so many other things, to interact with people, to get exposed. Scouting prepares you to become not just a grown-up, but a useful grown-up.
That's a very good way to put it. 22162 is the SMS line. Start with YM254. Never ever forget to leave your name. And where you're watching us from, your views, your comments, and your questions are invited always. So on to my next. So when I was in primary school, it was very easier. It was easier, not very. It was easier for the well-off kids to be scouts than the others, because they could afford uniforms, they could afford the gear for being a scout. So it was there was a misconception that only rich kids can be scouts. First, demystify this.
You've rightly said it's a misconception. So
Yes.
it's not the reality.
Yeah. But you need all these things to be a scout. You need to afford something first.
Yes. But we say that the most basic part of the scout uniform is this.
The scarf.
The scarf
Mhm.
and the wogan. That's the most basic part of the scout uniform. And in any case, you not having even the most basic part of your scout uniform doesn't stop you from being a scout. Being a scout is a voluntary thing. It's a commitment that you take as an individual. So yes, there are those issues whereby we have lots of scouts struggling to afford scout uniform, but that is not a hindrance for anyone to become a scout. It is open. It's a movement that is open to all. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, whether you're Christian or you're Muslim. It doesn't
brings
matter.
everybody
it
together.
brings everybody together, and that's the most important thing. It's not the uniform we wear. It's that commitment and the universality of the movement.
All right. Amazing. You look like you want to add on.
Yes, the main myth we normally have, it's when we associate scouting with only camping. There are very many things you can actually do besides camping, because I can look at our association. We normally have our thematic areas. Camping is not the only thing we do. You can decide that yes, we don't have our camping gear, but there's something you can actually do. We do a lot of improvisation. You don't have a table, we teach you how to make a table using locally available resources. It's so vast. We can decide that now, because we don't have our camping gear, then let us focus on what we can do. We can concentrate on conservation. Conservation can be, we can try and grow potatoes. For example, if our school, we have a very bad diet, we can decide, let's be part of this. You decide to set aside a part of your school grounds. You grow the potatoes. The students are able to get even the skill they need. You even now start saying, we talk about even hunger. People saying we are hungry, but there are different ways. For example, have you ever thought of how many potatoes in Kinangop normally go spoiled?
It's just to get them to the right people.
Yes.
The people who need them the most. So it's finding ways to solve problems in life, making better people in the society as well.
That is now educating the young people to play a
All roads
constructive
lead to the top of the tree, which is education.
role. Yes.
All right, amazing.
Education for life.
Education for life.
Because one of the things that education does to a person is that it makes you a different thinker. It makes you an innovator. And that is what scouting contributes to. But the difference between the education that Scouts provides and the formal education is that ours is an out-of-class learning setup. It's non-formal education. And
which kids tend to enjoy the most.
Yes, because it's education. We say it's learning by doing. Scouting gives you an opportunity to take part in the process, and as you do, take part in that process, you are learning. You are doing it as you learn. So, and Baden-Powell once said that the best way to educate a child is to put responsibility on them. By you putting the young people at the center of their own learning process, you've given them a responsibility that they need to be accountable to themselves. They need to be responsible for their own learning, and that sticks with them much more in their life than what they get in school.
All right. So do we have like a Scouts rule book somewhere? Is there a constitution for the Scouts?
Not really.
Constitution? No.
Something that you follow.
Yes.
We have a law, which are 10 in number, which normally guide our ways and our practices. A Scout's honor is to be trusted. You are expected to always be trustworthy.
Oh, the Scouts honor. I can remember the Scouts honor.
We have an outline which normally guides us most of the time. Not most, all the time.
All the time.
A Scout is clean indeed. A Scout is... I'm trying, there are so many.
Broadly, it's what we call the fundamental principles of scouting, which are basically 3. Whenever you see a scout do this, it's not just anything.
See Chama.
It's not a political movement. It's basically a reaffirmation of the fundamental principles of scouting, which the first one is duty to God. duty to others
Uh-huh.
and duty to yourself.
Sorry. Uh-huh.
Duty to God, meaning that you recognize that there's supreme being somewhere that has control over what happens on earth. It doesn't matter what religion you belong to, but
There's
that
always
belief.
God.
Yes. The second is duty to others. Your commitment as a scout to create a better world, to impact other people, to help other people, to do a good turn. And thirdly, the responsibility to your own self. Both for your own development and for your own well-being.
All right.
And all that is enshrined in what she's mentioned, the Scout Law and the Scout Promise.
You gave me a very interesting fun fact when you walked in about the population of Scouts in Africa, and then you broke it down to Kenya. Just take me through it again so they can get to know how Kenyans are representing in the Scouts movement.
I can talk about Kenya because that's where I come from. In our last census, we were at 1.4 million.
1.4 million Scouts.
1.4 million Scouts. And I believe we also got an award for being the largest youth organization, youth Scouts who are in Africa. So we were number one. So it's a plus for us. We're so many.
You went to pick the award for them?
We had our representatives doing that with one of our CEOs, Moses, and also we had Edgar, who is part of the youth advisors, the World Youth Advisors.
All right, so Kenya is really, really representing in the Scouts movement.
Yeah.
All right.
Kenya is actually the place that the founder of the movement chose to spend the last days of his life. And is buried in Nyeri.
There's a lot of history, eh?
Yes. So whenever you see Scouts flocking into Nyeri, it's more of they're paying homage to the founder who chose Kenya as his final resting place, and he decided to be buried in Kenya. It was his own decision.
Right.
And just on the membership, as you've mentioned, to follow up on what Grace has said, is that in Africa, we are now present in 47 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. The Africa Support Center, which is located here in Nairobi, serves sub-Saharan Africa, where we have 47...
So the headquarters is in Nairobi?
Yes, for the African region. And then we have a membership of slightly over 5 million. And globally, we are talking of a family of young people that is 50 million strong.
That's a very huge number.
Yes.
All right.
And we are targeting to grow to 100 million by 2023.
Wow. You are part of this committee that is planning this. Vision.
No,
Vision 2023.
As a member of staff, ours is just to support the national scout organizations like Kenya and the many others that are there around the world to really reach out to more young people, not just in terms of growing their numbers, but in terms of the impact that scouting has on them as well.
All right, and we are living in the information age, and the internet is connecting the world. So as the scout movement moved towards the internet, do you have like a website now and social media pages where you can interact and bring the scouts across the world together?
Yeah, most definitely.
We do.
There's a website.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are social media handles.
Yes.
That is what we like to hear, so that we can check you out.
And one interesting thing is that we, as a movement, we actually recognize that technology is changing how the world operates and how young people, who are our primary target, live their lives. And that is something we are very cognizant of, and we have made efforts towards improving our access, how scouts can access technology. For instance, in 2012, we revamped our global website, and we have opened it up to young people across the world. Scouts can actually go in and create their own accounts and share the stories of what they are doing in their communities, so that to bring together this connectedness, that we are not just scouts in Kenya, we are not just scouts in Zambia, we are not just scouts in
It's a global
Sierra
movement.
Leone, we are scouts in the world.
So it's a more social website now.
Yeah.
So when I get to the Scouts website, I can get stories from different scouts across
Just
the world.
log on to Scout, www.scout.org.
Tell them straight to their face.
www.scout.org. And there you will find stories of amazing stuff that scouts are doing across the world. both in Kenya, in Africa, and around the world.
All right. So many parents watch Y in the Morning, and maybe some of them were skeptical about letting their kids join the Scouts movement. So you're the PR person. But let's give the lady a chance. Talk to the parents if they were skeptical about letting their kids join the Scouts.
I believe this movement is mainly for the young people, and it's also actually help them in their phases of life. We normally call it a journey. As you want your child to be more responsible, you want your child to be more active, you want your child to be an active citizen, this is the movement you need to have. And it's not just with what the child is gaining, it's some of the virtues they are gaining: honesty, hard work, some of the things we actually need right now in our country. We also need patriotism. It is through the small things they're normally doing that they get to have these virtues. And you're saying we're learning by doing. It's something we face on one-on-one. They learn how to work together. You know, as we may opt to say that, oh, it's me and my kid. No. We always live in a community, and this community is whereby you need to learn some of the traits you need to have as a good citizen.
Knowledge is power.
It is.
What is the future of the Scouts movement? Just give us an insight. That you might get in trouble for leaking some of it.
Before I go to the future, just to back what Grace has said. Last year, we at the global level we conducted a survey in 3 countries: the United Kingdom, Singapore, and Kenya, where we were trying to measure the impact of Scouting on young people. And different areas of development were identified, 14 different areas. And the research brought out statistics that Scouts performed considerably well in these areas as compared to their non-Scout peers. And that goes on to show that by a young person going through the movement, they are definitely becoming a better person. They are definitely becoming people, they are young people that their parents can be proud of, and even the society can be proud of. The future of Scouting. As a movement now, considering the changes that are going on globally, we continuously work towards providing more opportunity for young people to not just become Scouts, but how do we as Scouts also reach out to these more young people? Well, be they in, for instance, like now we have lots of migration, we have lots of people, Africans going to
overseas.
Look for overseas to look for greener pastures. These kind of trends affect Scouting. So how do we adapt as a movement? This is where initiatives like right now we have a Scout group opened in Kakuma refugee camp. The refugees have an opportunity to practice Scouting. So we are trying more and more to reach out to more diverse parts of our society.
Or to reach out to those people who you haven't reached out to before.
Yes.
Oh, and growing the movement as well.
Yes.
In terms of population and skill and everything, as you say.
Yes.
All right. One last time, the website and the social media handles as we wrap this up, so they can visit and just enjoy.
I think there's one thing I've left out. We are having, at the stage that I'm in right now, we are celebrating 100 years of rovering in Kenya. And you're going to be having our centenary celebrations, which are going to be from 13th to 18th of August. We're going to be at our headquarters, which is at Roaland Scouts Camp, opposite Jamhuri Park. We can go to our social media pages or platforms to find out, or even to get information of what is happening. We have Kenya Scouts Association, which is our Facebook page. We also have Twitter, we have Kenya Scouts. So within those two, and also we already even have our website, which is Kenya Scouts also.
Kenya Scouts as
Yes.
well. All right.
.org.
Global one or the
globally, I invite you guys to visit scout.org, and everywhere on social media just use Scouts at Scouts.
Right.
If you want to tag us, tag hashtag Scouts.
Hashtag Scouts.
At the regional level, you can find us on Facebook, Scouting Africa, Twitter, Scouting Africa. Yes.
And the rest of them.
Yes.
So there's an interest. Somebody is interested in your badges.
Badges, okay.
They'd like to know what they represent. So maybe we can start with you, the lady.
Okay, from my uniform, we have the Africa one.
Uh-huh.
This represents that the association is under Kenya is under Africa, and you already have a representation of Africa. We have the now badge representing Kenya, the country I come from. It's on my right side, and on my left side I have the.
It has to be on the right.
Yes.
Oh,
The
okay.
country I come from.
All right, all right.
And out there, the last one we have is the world badges.
The world badge. It's the same one as the one on the hat.
Yes, it is.
All right, and then the Kenya Scouts on the other side.
Epaulets, signifying which country I come from. Also, I may not have this, but with my epaulets, you can actually see which country I come from. It's easy.
It's easy. Kenya is the first one. All right. We'll move on to your badges.
Basically, these ones are used to identify where someone comes from. So you look at a scout, and the first thing you read this, you'll know where they come from. So mine is the uniform for the World Scout Bureau. The World Scout Bureau is the permanent secretariat of the World Organization of the Scout Movement. So we exist to support the countries to run their scouting. Yes, and of course, as she's mentioned, this just shows that we belong to a global movement, whether you're in Kenya or you're in any part of the country.
It represents the global.
Yeah.
And then,
well, this is just my name tag.
That is just your name tag. All right, thank you very much, Nelson and Grace, for coming through to Y in the Morning. And keep doing whatever you're doing to support or build the society or make the society a better place. We appreciate you. And thank you for representing the Scouts movement.
Thank you for having us. And we invite more young people to become Scouts, and even many adults to come and support the young people.
All right, yeah, scouting is not only for those in primary or high school. You are invited as well as a senior citizen of this country. You can support, you can be a member. This has been another segment of Y in the Morning, and today is Entrepreneurship Tuesday. We'll have more interviews coming your way. We have Hello Day also lined up for you. I go by the name of Barry Moses, or It's Barry More on every social media platform, so stay tuned.
Y254. Imagine.